More than 1,000 prisoners have taken over Strangeways jail in Manchester.
100 protest on the roof, others take over the main cell block.
On April the 1st, 1990, Strangeways inmates began to riot and within hours had seized control of the whole prison. Press photographer John Giles arrived as things were beginning to escalate.
So all of a sudden the gates burst open and police officers in full riot gear, carrying shields, carried injured officers out straight towards me. So I'm taking pictures all the time and there was no rolling news.
He didn't stop taking pictures for the next 3 weeks from the roof of this warehouse opposite the prison.
This was their stage. This is where they performed on a daily basis to the photographers in the front row. They would shout across to us, "Make sure you get me best side." We would shout back, "You don't have a best side."
Are you prepared to come down?
One of the ringleaders was Alan Lord, who was serving a life sentence for murder.
When you're confined up in the cell, that's designed for one man, but there's 3 people in it. And within that cell, you've got 1 slot bucket. You've got 1 change of clothing a week. Naturally, you're going to get the hump about it.
The prison governor at the time was Brendan O'Friel.
What were the conditions like at the time for the prisoners?
Pretty awful, really. I mean, we'd done a lot of work to start to improve things, but the prison was hugely overcrowded. I realised we were up against something very serious.
Having lost control of the prison, the authorities tried to stop prisoners communicating with the outside world.
They'd play music very loudly, Barry Manilow, even that didn't get them off the roof.
Her name was Lola, she was a showgirl.
And the music was Barry Manilow. Not everybody's favourites.
That didn't get you down?
Absolutely no.
One of John's most memorable photographs was of Alan Lord displaying a handwritten message of defiance. The prisoners were in it for the long haul.
That enabled the message to get out beyond the wall.
A protest against prison conditions had turned into a test of wills.
We were dealing with something quite unprecedented in the English prison service.
I remember talking down to a governor and said, "Well, who's got your prison now? You and me, I'm in charge."
On day 23, a riot squad managed to snatch Alan Lord. 2 days later, the final 5 prisoners surrendered.
We were cheering and waving their arms. And
Alan Lord was sentenced to a further 10 years for his part in the riot and has only recently been released.
It's interesting hearing the different memories of these 3 men. And until now, the 3 of them have never had the chance to sit together and share their different perspectives.
Don't take offence, but I don't want to shake your hand.
OK, that's fine.
But it's a pleasure to meet you.
OK.
Pleasure to meet
nice to meet you.
Of you.
You look a bit more comfortable than last time I saw you.
Have a look at that. This is the photograph of Alan on the roof that you took, John.
Yeah. Were you aware of us on the roof opposite you?
I do remember the banter in actual fact, because sometimes some of the members of the press used to laugh at the things that was happening.
Yeah. It was the most unusual news story I've ever covered. The fact that it went on for so long.
You were trying to stop Alan and his fellow inmates from getting these kind of messages out to the media.
Well, hang on. I probably first saw that in the papers. There was a tendency for prisoners to throw slates at us too. That made it somewhat hazardous, standing there sort of looking up.
People who were in authority looking after the prisoners in the prison system, they should have been doing more to implement changes at a faster rate.
Prisoners had a justifiable grievance. Some of us were attempting to improve things, but we were put in a position, both staff and prisoners, that was really impossible. Most of my concern was bringing the incident to an end.
After the 25 days, Brendan moved on with his career. I won a few awards for the Strangeways pictures. He did another 10 years.
2 men died during the riot, almost 200 were injured, and the cost to the taxpayer was over £100 million. But it did lead to the Wolf Report and improvements in prisons across the UK.
Out of the Wolf inquiry came some substantial changes that are still making a useful difference to the prison service.
I think every prisoner is aware that they're there because they committed a crime. We don't mind doing the time, but do it humanely. If you treat me inhumane, then I'll behave like that.